Alright guys, here it is all together. It sits center, has equal gaps on each side. I've got my e-brake pulled back out of the way. Had it tied off with twine, but there's the bracket, hardware, all bolted up, stainless steel line, and I'm gonna take it apart and walk you through this install step by step. Alright, got everything off. Obviously, you have to take off all your old stuff, pull your caliper, disconnect the line, make sure you don't get no fluid on nothing, pull your old rotor. You might want to inspect all this while you're there. First thing you should do is get you something and pull some twine or something that's where you can take your e-brake. It's pretty stiff. Just pull it toward the back of the car as far as you can to get it out of the way. And then stuff you're going to need. You're going to need a 370Z Sport rear rotor, 14, 17, 19 millimeter long screwdriver, the bracket, 2 M10 by 1.5 thread pitch bolts, 35 millimeters long, with a lock washer. I call those flange bolts. You need a 10 millimeter by 40 millimeter long. You can get regular ones and put a washer on it, or get the flange bolt. It don't matter what thread pitch. Make sure your lock nuts match. Get a lock washer, lock nuts. Stainless steel brakes, 950 63502, and your Brembo caliper. Alright, with the Brembo caliper I wound up doing a little bit more grinding, but as you can see, when you look straight down on it, you can't see the brake pad clip. I wouldn't go any further than that. Rounded. We'll provide a template and whatever, template measurements for that. Once you get that grinded, then you'll be ready to start putting it together. Something you need to take note of when I'm talking about top and bottom. The top of the caliper is going to be the side with the bleeder valves, and then looking at the bracket, the top is the through hole, the bottom has the slot hole. Just a side note, if you want to make your life a hell of a lot easier and you don't mind taking your lower control arm loose right here and letting it pivot right there and let it swing down out of the way. It's a really tight fit right about there with that bottom bolt. But if you're like me and you don't want to mess with your lower control arm, you're going to have to do it this way. Alright, you want to take your M12 1.5s, they will thread into the caliper. You want to go ahead and put the bracket on, but you do not want to take and tighten them down. You just want to get them started, 3 or 4 threads, leave them where that'll do like that. I'm going to show you why. The reason why is because of how tight it is down there on that bottom hole right there. It's hard to get in. There's a very small gap. You'll see it once we get there. But once you've got the bolts in the bracket like that, you want to take your 2 flange bolts and stick them in the holes. You want to stick them in facing toward the car, not away from it. Once you got those in there like that, now you want to slide your rotor on. Alright, now you'll notice I don't have the rotor on all the way. I got it on just enough, so to speak. The reason why is because you want to take them bolts that we put in, you want to slide them back flush with these little ears so that we can get the caliper over the rotor and then line the bracket up with the holes. Alright, now by not tightening these down, I got them in there like one complete rotation. Got them started, did a full rotation, but you want to be able to have this bracket slide to be able to get the caliper over the rotor and line that up. Now I only got one hand, so I'm not going to be able to show you, record this and do it at the same time, but it's pretty self-explanatory. Just to give you an idea, I'm holding it here. I'm not going to be able to do it while I record, but basically by doing that, now you've allowed everything to sit back so you can slide the bracket over the wheel hub. Now what you want to do once you get it right here is you want to push the bolts through the through holes of the bracket, and once you do that, you can push the rotor the rest of the way back. Once you get the top one through, you can go ahead and put your washer and nut on there so that everything kind of just hang. You're not in a real bind, you know. And then a long screwdriver, flathead screwdriver, comes in handy right here. You can see that bolt head down there, but you'll take that screwdriver, you can go in right through that angle right there, and then just move the caliper and bracket around to get that hole lined up with the hub hole, and let the bolt come through like this one. Now all I did was wiggle the caliper while I took the screwdriver and pushed on that. It's hard to, here we go, right there. Pushed on that bolt head and wiggled the caliper, and of course the bracket's on the caliper, and got it to poke through. And so now we'll get the lock washer and lock nut on that. Alright, now we got the lock washer and lock nut on that bolt. And if you have a really long 14mm, this right here would be a little easier. But that bolt and the very bottom bolt, you can see how close it is to the lower control arm, are the two pain in the butts for this install. Alright, once we get the middle bolt through and we get the washer and nut on it, we're going to tighten up the top bolt first to get the bracket secured. The bolt head is a 14mm, and then the nut is a 17mm. Get it tight. Alright, now we got that top bolt tight. We can see our caliper is like way out of whack, loose, all that jazz. So what we're going to do is take the top caliper bolt here and snub it down. You don't want to tighten it. You want just take up the slack. You really don't even need a wrench right now. You can take the slack up by finger, and you'll need to take the slack up on the bottom one too, because you can see it's already hitting the lower control arm. So take your finger tighten them, take all the slack out. You have to do the bottom at the same time you're doing the top, kind of alternate between them. If you snub down the top, it's going to pull the caliper in like that, and then it's going to put the head of the lower one against the lower control arm and put it in a bind. So you want to take the slack out. Easiest way to get to this bottom bolt is from the bottom. If you got a car lift, you're lucky you. If you're like me, your car's on jack stands right now, so get under here is the best angle to take up that slack. Got the slack out, you can see the bolt. It clears. It's not tight. Once you tighten it down, you'll clear even more. Tight fit. And then up here, I've got a little bit of the slack out too. But you can see that you can, well, it's hard for me to do it with one damn hand and video it. Basically, take the slack out, but leave it where you can still move it a little bit. Alright, after you took the slack out, what you need to do is make sure the rotor is all the way on. So we've pushed it all the way back, but need to put some nuts on it, secure it. Alright, obviously these are just temporary, but it gets the rotor straight, secure, so we can get everything else lined up and secure. Okay, you can see here we get pretty good pad coverage, but now we want to take position the rotor as far in as it'll go and tighten it up. You can see right down in there where we grinded it. You can see there's the lobe of the hub and where we grinded it. So basically what we're going to do is take and position the caliper how we want it and snub up the two caliper bolts. Alright, this is how I'm going to have mine set. You see, it's just like we said, we voted for grinder mod for 90 to 100% pad coverage, and we got 90. Got a little more than 90. Almost got all of it. Some people mentioned grinding the lobe, that lobe, but the one on the bottom, right down there, grinding it so that the caliper will go a little further in. You can do that if you want. There's enough slot. There's enough slot in the caliper holes for a little more adjustment, but I wouldn't do it. It's in the rear. Most of your brake force is up front, and I'm pretty happy with that pad coverage. It's depending on what angle you're looking at it. It's pretty close. And see, obviously, that's coming in looking at an angle. But if you try to get straight on it, you can see the edges of the pad. It's pretty damn close. What I mentioned just a second ago was tightening up both, getting the caliper in position and then tighten up both caliper bolts. But then I noticed I forgot to show you guys this lower hub bolt. So let me show you how to tighten that. Again, that is the M14. If you go in, if you got a real long one, you can see that it don't stick out. It don't stick out much. That's just a regular wrench. If you got a long one, it'll stick out way up here. But me, only having one hand, I took that long screwdriver, get the wrench on the head, and then get the wrench on the head, and then just on the back of the hub where your dust shield was, put your screwdriver between the wrench. Oh, let's see if I can get in here. The wrench, anyway, you get it. You picking up what I'm putting down? Come on now. Get the wrench on there. Put the screwdriver wedged up in there to hold it. Then get back here with a socket and a ratchet and tighten that bad boy up. Alright. Now that one's tightened up. That one's tightened up. We got the bracket secure. I've already positioned my caliper where I wanted it. And I got the top bolt snubbed down. Now get back under the car and tighten up the lower bolt. Alright, you have to kind of come in at an angle. You can grab it from that flat edge and get 3 flat edge turns on it, if that makes any sense. But you can see how close the A-arm is. It's so damn tight of a fit. If you'd want to take that nut loose and let that A-arm swing down out of the way, it'd make things a little easier, but I didn't feel like messing with it. So you can get it. You have to go at an angle. Be careful not to scratch up the back side of your caliper. But yeah, get it at an angle. Get your third of a turn on it until you get it tightened up. Alright, there it is, tightened up. You can see it clears, plenty of gap. A lot more than it had when we first put it in. I'll have the torque specs on the write-up for all of the nuts and bolts. See the e-brake clears. You can untie it, let it relax. Here it is again. This is about as straight as I can get on it, but you can see it ain't lacking much. Obviously, if you come over here, it looks a lot worse, but you're at an angle. If you get straight on with it, not so bad. Definitely within the 90 to 100%. So straight up, same gap. Remember, the 370Z rotor is 20 millimeters, and these calipers are designed for 28 millimeters, so you got about a 4 millimeter gap on each side. You can get some backing plates made for your brake pads and shim the pads out a little bit, take up that gap so your pistons aren't running exposed. They really wouldn't be exposed because they got dust boots, but you know what I mean. You don't want them that far out. Alright, I'm going to untie my e-brake, let it relax, show you where that's at, and then do the stainless steel line. Alright, e-brake's been untied, it's relaxed, and sitting in there with plenty of clearance, not in a bind or anything. You can see right up here, it's got that big rubber, whatever you want to call it, coating, covering, extra hose, whatever. Anyway, it protects it real stiff, so what little bit of vibrations right there, I don't think it's going to be a big deal. It's really stiff. It shouldn't bounce around too much. But you saw where I had it pulled back with my twine just to get it out of the way while you put the bracket in. All is good there. Now, stainless steel lines. Alright, the stainless steel lines come with these brackets on them, and I guess that's something for the Dodge mounting. I took mine off. All you do is pop that dude off out from around that head, and it will let the brake line come out that hole, just like that. And you want to take this side and thread it onto that, like so. You just get it hand tied at first, that way the line's loose, maneuverable. They're not very agile, but they go in right here, and I'm going to show you how I hook that up. Alright, once you get that hooked up, put your banjo bolt in with your brass crush washer on each side. I'm thinking I might leave my line under this arm and use these two holes to run a zip tie to just hold it secure, loose under the arm. You could run it to the outside like that. I don't know if that edge would rub on it and cause problems later. You can see right there. But since this already has two holes, I think I'm going to tuck it up under there and just put a heavy duty zip tie or two on it. Not pulled tight, but loose, just so that it stays under there. No, this is not a heavy duty zip tie, but it just is for representation. I'm all out of heavy duty ones right now. So you got that. You'll need to put your key keeper or whatever they're called, that guy, to hold that way in place. Obviously, double check everything, make sure everything's tight. Make sure you got those tight. Got all your bolts tight to bolt specs, torque specs. Again, torque specs being the right up. Once you've done that, you need to bleed your lines. You're all done. again, you could probably take a little off that lobe if you wanted to, but I'm not. I'm good with that right there. Apologies, this is my first install video. Don't be too hard on me. And of course you want to take these temporary nuts off so you can get your wheel on. But now everything's tightened down in place, it shouldn't be a problem. And that's it. You're done.